Should I go? My name is Leo, also known as Soldier. I'm a painter, sculptor, designer, just an artist. And we're in New York. My first ever piece of work I did in New York. It's me as a cowboy for like a series called American Me. So I just came from London and I was like, what's the best way to make a big splash in New York as a black artist from the UK or from Nigeria? And I did a shoot in London of myself as a cowboy, and I got it printed out on this memory foam, and it's like me. And I took it around places in New York. I took it in like Brooklyn. I took it to like the bridge. I took it to Times Square, and I took like a bunch of images. And yeah, that's the first work I did in New York. I think my very first work that I remember, apart from like obviously drawing the stick people looking like this, was I used to draw a lot of houses. For some reason unknown to me, I used to draw I remember drawing a detailed version of like a house, the box and the triangle and the windows, and like adding more stuff and making it bigger. I think that's my first work. I think I always wanted to like replicate what I used to see. What motivates me to do art is, I think, expression. It's like I think everyone is kind of going through this human journey, and I feel like we all have the same feelings, or I mean, we have different feelings, but we all kind of like express ourselves. And I think as an artist, my job is to kind of put ideas out there about like who I am, and have people who feel the same way kind of like come across it and feel like seen or feel inspired. Sometimes I have to make work to send out a message. Some of my works can be quite political. Not too political, but political enough. I speak about immigration. I speak about like racism, like how, I think being a black person is perceived, being a Nigerian is perceived, or like the day-to-day life of like someone who kind of grew up in my situation. A lot of things motivates me, like my life, my experiences, my friends, people I see on the street, books, music, movies, and how I feel generally. I think my work as well, normally, I try not to make one work look the same as another. I try and be like quite free, because obviously in the art world, people have this thing where they're like, oh, your work needs to look recognizable. But I think if you're making the work with the same hands, that's recognized. Like that's it. That's the umbrella. So I mostly do like these portraiture, figurative works, all paints. Sometimes I can do sculptures. Sometimes it can be works in collage. But the theme is just how I feel, who I am, and where I want to be. And I want other people to feel these ways. And also, like, I want to start a conversation and start an idea. So yeah, I think that's the baseline. Yeah. I feel like access is something I wish I could change. I feel like in the art world, there's like all these big walls, like huge walls. And, especially for someone like myself who looks like me and comes from where I come from, it's pretty hard to have all these access. So I wish if I could change it, I think I would make art a bit inclusive. I mean, I'm changing it right now. I wish I would make art more inclusive. I think I normally say this: if you want to kind of like trace the history, the culture, even the problems of a particular place, you look at a couple things. You look at like entertainment, economy, feeding, culture, and then you can kind of understand the world you live in. For me, for the show, I was aiming to use food, and I was aiming to use my experiences with food and feeding in Nigeria as like a way of showcasing the problems of the country, or like where we're at in the country till now. Yeah. So I was originally born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. My dad's a reverend. My mother worked in human resource, like for like several companies. Um, then I kind of often left home when I was 16. Was going from friend house to friend house in the streets of like Lagos, kind of like a street kid. Um, then I found skateboarding and I found like art and graphic design. I used to skate for this company called Waffles and Cream. And we used to like skate and do like all their designs, and we used to make like skate videos and like t-shirts. And we used to do like group exhibitions, and I think that was like my first entry into the art world. And then fast forward, here I am in New York, all the way from Lagos. I think when I was 8, my mother and myself and my siblings, we went to this like store in Nigeria called ShopRite, and they had like all these like imported goods from like America and around the world. So I remember like seeing this like wooden skateboard, like the terrible type, the type that like you buy from like a store, like not from a skate shop, like a store, like the full thing. And I remember telling my mom I want that because I used to watch this show on Disney called Zeke and Luther. That I used to think was really cool. I told my mother I want that, like I want this, and she gets it to me. And like I think that's when I learned how to like be on a board and like stabilize. So when I met my friends years later, after I was done with secondary school, they were all skateboarding, and I wanted to really join them. So I picked up a board, and because I had the balance from when I had the terrible board when I was 8, that's when I started like skating with them. And then fast forward, we started making like videos, taking pictures. Like we used to watch a lot of Supreme videos growing up, and we just started trying to build our own thing, quite similar to what we used to see on the TV. And that was the birth of our skate collective called Motherland, Motherlan, no D. And yeah, skateboarding is very interesting because I think my philosophy of like it comes from skateboarding, because it's like if you fall down, you stand up and you just keep going, like no matter what, and you make it look cool. You know what I mean? You make it look fucking cool. So yeah. I mean, because then you think of the way people run brands is quite similar, or it could be similar to the way people make paintings or make arts. Like you reference, you look at things, you look at art, you listen to all kinds of music, and then you just like pick things out, and then you use that to express yourself. It's like you want to make a t-shirt, then you look at this one design and you're like, oh, I want to copy the way the font looks on this to my own brand. And the same way of doing like a painting, because then you go to a museum, or like you go to to an exhibition, and then you see a painting and you're like, I like that. I like the colors in that. I want to replicate this. I want to replicate this feeling. I guess like starting a brand and doing it with my friends, I think it taught me a bunch of things. One is like community, like having the right people around me. 2, it taught me to be a bit daring and like learn how to put things out there. And 3, it taught me how to steal. It taught me how to take things and make them my own. So yeah, I'm always grateful. I feel like one of the reasons why I kind of like opted and left was I think people are not ready to have that conversation about like what art is like in Nigeria, especially contemporary art, because obviously we have the Benin bronze and we have like all these amazing like furniture and like woodwork, and we have crafts, and I feel like craft making is like making things with the function of like selling and making a living and livelihood. But art is like, it's not functional. I mean, a painting is a painting. You know what I mean? I think for me, culturally, it was very hard for my parents to swallow the pill that their son wanted to be a painter instead of like an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer. So it was a lot of fighting, and I feel like many kids had to fight. But I think it's changing now, because I feel like having people like me and like my friends and like several people who are doing these amazing stuff, and like also showing that like it could be like a career. I think it's changing perspective. I just had my show in Lagos. I had a show in Lagos, and I remember I was speaking to my gallerist. His name is Richard, and I was like, wow, like this show is in Lagos, but I'm not sure if people are ready for it. And he was like, nah, people are ready. You just have to keep making the market. So I feel like now it's kind of growing up. I feel like people are kind of getting into it. Like I think many Nigerians are like understanding it, and I'm very grateful for that. I feel like then when we were skateboarding and like doing stuff, people were like, "What are you guys doing? Like, you guys look crazy." But now, whenever I go back home, I see more skaters. I see more people making skate videos. Now we have a skate park, the first one in Lagos. I see people even doing raves. The people doing like secret raves. The people like, expressing themselves through music and through art and getting tattoos. People streaming. People just like being home and like just making all these amazing creative things. So I feel like when we first started, it was a bit like lonely and different, but now I think everyone's kind of waking up, and people like I think people just know that they could do whatever they want and like get away with it, and that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. What does your pants say? You are
your own master.
You're your own master. I fuck with that. I really fuck with that. I do feel like that. Amazing.
So why'd you call yourself Soldier?
So why did I call myself Soldier? That's quite interesting. So when I say skateboarding, a friend of mine, I have this pair of camo pants. I don't know how, because I normally tell these two stories. Either my auntie gave me some or a friend of mine had some, but there was like a pair of camo pants. They had camouflage, they were baggy. I'm a skater, so you think, oh, skateboarding, camouflage pants, baggy, etc. So I remember wearing them one day and coming across some military men in Nigeria, and they told me to take them off. Like that was really a thing. Like they hassled me and they were like, oh, take off your camo pants. And so that's when I realized, as a civilian in Lagos, I think obviously based on the civil unrest, you're not allowed to wear things that have camouflage. Then fast forward a couple years after, I go to London and see everyone wearing fucking camouflage. So for me, it was kind of funny, and I think I started making these camouflage works. Like, it made me get really into camouflage. And I started making like these camouflage works, like delving into like camouflage patterns and like patterns in the act of hiding and like warfare. And the name Soldier kind of came up like that, and then it just kind of stuck. By the way, I was like 16, 17 when I was doing all these things, and now I'm like 20. I'm like 20 something. And yeah, and it's stuck, and I have the name Soldier now. This is kind of like my Bible. Religious moment. So I got a bunch of books, like chilling as inspiration. You are what you think, that's what I say. Also, my favorite object in the world is a printer. I think most of my ideas, or most of my good ideas, they always come out from a printer. So this is my baby. Love my printer. I'll say my favorite thing to do is to paint. I think painting is, I don't know, it's quite challenging for me. Whenever I make a new work, I feel like I'm in so much pain. I don't know how to explain it. But I think in that pain, there's always something I learn. There's always something good. There's something I perceive from it. I think I like the idea of putting it's like alchemy. It's like you get like a bunch of colors, you mix them together, and then you can create something that's quite like realistic. It's amazing, So yeah, painting for now, and I just like working with like paper. I like collages. I love paper. I think paper is fun. So yeah, painting.